These ones are the most brutal problems to factor. When you have the number in front of the x squared that isn't 1, even after you take out the greatest common factor. It's pretty tricky. So I'm going to show you two ways that I'm aware of how to factor these problems. I like the second way better, but it's not a way that you typically see in a textbook. So first I'll show you the textbook way, and it's factoring by grouping. Brilliant way to do it. Always look for a greatest common factor first. There isn't one on this one. So then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to multiply a and c, the number in front of the x squared with the number at the end. 6 times negative 2 is negative 12. So again, we're kind of thinking in our head factors of 12. So that could be 1 times 12, it could be 2 times 6, or it can be 3 times 4. Now it did multiply to negative 12, and I know that means there's going to be a positive and a negative, which means they're really going to be like 1 apart from each other because the middle number is negative 1. And we'll make them add up to negative 1, but initially when we're looking at the factors, they need to be 1 apart because it multiplied to a negative. So 3 and 4 are going to be the good numbers that we're working with. So here's how we're going to do it when we're factoring by grouping. Now again, we have to make them add up to negative 1. So it'd have to be negative 4 and positive 3. So we're going to split this into two terms. And it doesn't matter which one you write first. It works out both ways. But let's say I put positive 3x first and negative 4x second. If I add those together, it gives us negative 1. So we didn't change anything yet. We're going to bring down the other terms, the 6x squared, the minus 2 back here. And we're going to, now that we have 4 terms and we can split it half and half, we can factor by grouping. So if you look at the left side, we're going to factor out the greatest common factor. 6x squared and 3x have 3x as a common factor. So 3x times 2x would give us 6x squared, and 3x times positive 1 gives us 3x. Cool. The right half, it starts with a negative number. Anytime your lead coefficient is negative, you're going to want to factor out a negative. 4x and 2 have a 2 in common. Negative 2 times 2x is negative 4x. Negative 2 times positive 1 is negative 2. Check out what's in parentheses. It's the same thing. 2x plus 1, 2x plus 1. So we're ready for our final answer. One set of parentheses is going to be the greatest common factors that we took out, the 3x minus 2. The other set is what they had shared in parentheses, the 2x plus 1. And this would be our final answer. So that's not terribly difficult, but I have a way that a student showed me 10 years ago, and I still factor it this way. And I've never seen it in a textbook. I'm not saying it's not there. I just haven't seen it, and I like it way better. And a lot of my students do too. So a lot of the similar steps. You still multiply first and last, negative 12. You're finding factors that are 4 apart, 3 and negative 4. So you write it as like, let's say it was, you want the positive 3 first, x plus 3, x minus 4. Now, if you multiplied that out, it wouldn't give you this. So there's one extra step. We're going to try to divide by the number in front, the a. We're going to try to divide them by 6. Now, neither of these are divisible by 6, but we have to simplify the fractions that we see. 3 over 6 would reduce to 1/2. 4 over 6 would reduce to 2/3. And then whatever you have in the denominator, you could just bring to the front. 2x plus 1, this would be 3x minus 2. Same answer that we got over here. Same thing. It gives you just an extra tool in the tool belt. You go with whatever way you need to do it. Now, factoring by grouping is an essential skill. It happens later on this joke worksheet. You have to factor certain polynomials by grouping. But this is a nice option for when it's just a trinomial where your a is not 1. So I'll continue to show you both ways for a few of these. And then again, just like go with what works for you. So here, you look for a common factor. There isn't one. So we multiply first and last. 5 times positive 3 is positive 15. If it's positive, you know they have to be the same sign, either both plus or both minus. They add up to positive 16. They'd have to both be plus. So we got 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. We're looking for the set that could give us that 16. Hopefully you can recognize that's going to be the 1 and 15. So if we're factoring by grouping, we know they have to both be positive, and it doesn't matter which one you write first. It works out both ways. So let's say I put the plus 1x first, and yeah, you could just write plus x plus 15x. We just split that 16x. We'll bring down the other stuff, 5x squared, the plus 3, and we'll factor by grouping. The left side, 5x squared plus 1x, has an x in common. So we factor out an x, we're left with 5x plus 1. On the right side, 15x and 3 have a common factor of 3. So 3 times 5x is 15x, 3 times 1 is 3. That's a good sign because we ended up with the same thing in both sets of parentheses. So the stuff we factored outside, x plus 3, is one of our final parentheses, and the 5x plus 1 becomes the other one. That's the way many people prefer to do this problem. But let's say you want to give another way a chance. Still multiply 5 and 3, 15. We're still looking for the set that gives you 16. That's 1 and 15. X plus 1, x plus 15. But in this method, we're going to try to divide by a, which in this problem was 5. I can't simplify 1 over 5 at all. So all we do is take that denominator, move it to the front, 5x plus 1. Here, we can just divide it. It divides evenly. 15 divided by 5 is 3. And you could make it 3 over 1 and move the 1 to the front. It just wouldn't change anything. Same answer. Either way. All right. Let's see what else we got. All right, here we go. Number 9. Look for a common factor. There is not one. So we're going to multiply first and last. 12 times 5 is positive 60. If it's positive, they have to both be the same sign. They add up to a minus 16, so they're going to both be minus when we split that 16. So 60 could be 1 times 60, 2 times 30, 3 times 20, 4 times 12, 5, oh no, it's 5 times 12, 4 times 15, 5 times 12, or 6 times 10. We need the set that adds up to 16. That would be 6 and 10. And we know on this problem they would have to both be minus. Minus 6x minus 10x. If you want, you could write the minus 10x first, and it's all going to be fine. 12x squared, we'll bring that down. We'll bring down the plus 5. 12x squared minus 6x, common factor of 6x. 6x times 2x is 12x squared, minus 6x times 1 is 6x. On the right side, I see it starts with a minus. We'll factor out a negative. 10x and 5 have 5 as a common factor. Negative 5 times 2x is negative 10x. Negative 5 times negative 1 would give you positive 5. So outside we have 6x minus 5. That's one of our final factors. And then inside they both have the 2x minus 1. That's the other one. If you want to open your mind to a new method, same steps. 12 times 5, 60. You're looking for the set that adds up to 16. 6 and 10. X minus 6, x minus 10. We have to try to divide them by a, which in this problem is 12. Remember, we have to simplify these fractions if we can. 6 over 12 would reduce to 1/2. The 2 will scooch to the front and become 2x minus 1. 10 and 12, you can divide them both by 2. 5 over 6. Bring the 6 to the front. 6x minus 5. Same answer. Whoa! All right. We have 3 more of these. We're cruising now. We're in the flow now. 12x squared plus 17x plus 6. All right. No common factor. 12 times 6 is positive 72. Both plus or both minus. In this case, they add up to positive 17. That means they're going to both be plus. So 72, we could have 1 times 72, 2 times 36, 3 times 24, 4 times 18, 5 doesn't go in there. 6 times 12, 7, no. And then 8 times 9. We need the set that gives us 17, and that would be the 8 and 9. Plus 8x plus 9x. We'll bring down the other stuff. 12x squared plus 6. And we will factor each half. On the left half, a common factor for 12x squared and 8x would be 4x. 4x times 3x is 12x squared. 4x times 2 is 8x. Now, you know that it's going to have to work out where this is also 3x. So, if it's easier for you, you could write that in first and kind of work backwards and think 3x times what would give me 9x? And that's 3x times 3. But you do want to check, make sure 3 times 2 is 6, which it is. If that helps, great. If it doesn't, do it your way. Outside, we got 4x plus 3. And then they share the 3x plus 2. If you want to try it the other way, factors of 72 that add up to 17 are 8 and 9, x plus 8, x plus 9. We'll try to divide them by the number in front, the 12. Neither one can divide by 12, but we can simplify them. 8 and 12, you could divide them both by 4. It's 2 over 3. We'll move the 3 to the front. 3x plus 2. 9 and 12, you could divide them both by 3. It would be 3 over 4. Move the 4 to the front. 4x plus 3. Same answer either way, but which one are you doing better with? I don't know. All right, let's see what we got for 11 and 12. Ooh, 11. Some people are like excited and they're like, oh, we should do 6 times negative 45 right away. But there's a common factor here. These are all divisible by 3. Factor out your greatest common factor first. Always look for that. So if we divide these each by 3, we'd have 2x squared plus 1x minus 15. Now that 3 on the outside, sometimes kids get caught up in the rest of the problem and they forget about it. So what I usually do when I'm doing these myself is I'll write like the final answer and I put the 3 there so then I don't have to worry about forgetting it later. Now we're working inside. We're doing 2 times negative 15. That's negative 30. I know when it multiplies to a negative, it has to be one of each, a positive and negative, and they have to be the middle apart. So I'm looking for factors of 30 that are 1 apart from each other. So 1 times 30, 2 times 15, 3 times 10, or 5 times 6. The set that is 1 apart is 5 and 6. We have to make them add up to positive 1. So that means the big number would have to be the plus. So it'd be plus 6 x minus 5x. Put them in whatever order you want. We'll bring down the other stuff, the 2x squared, the minus 15. Left side, 2x squared and 6x. You could factor out 2x. 2x times x is 2x squared. 2x times 3 is 6x. The right side starts with a negative, so we'll factor out a minus. 5x and 15 have a 5 in common. Negative 5 times x is negative 5x, and negative 5 times positive 3 is negative 15. So on the outside we had the 2x minus 5, and then they have the x plus 3 in common. If you want to try it the other way, you still take out the 3. Factors of 30 that are 1 apart would be positive 6, negative 5. So we could write x plus 6, x minus 5. And then we try to divide by a. Now, a in this case is the 2. It's right in front of the x squared. Because sometimes I get caught up and I'll be like, divide by the number in front. And kids will be like, oh, well, 3's out in front. But you divide by a, the number in front of x squared. So in this case, 2. 6 divided by 2, easy. It's just 3. 5 divided by 2, you can't do. You can't even simplify, so just bring the 2 to the front. 2x minus 5. Let's make sure those are both the same answer. 3, 2x minus 5, x plus 3. Great. One more of these super nasty ones. Is there anything that these have in common? 25, 55, 10? Yeah, they're all divisible by 5. So we'll take out the 5 first. 5 times 5 is 25, 5 times 11 is 55, and 5 times 2 is 10. I don't want to forget. So I'm going to write my final set of parentheses with a 5 on the outside. All right, inside now, we have 5 times positive 2, that's positive 10. They have to both be the same sign, and they have to add up to 11. In this case, they're both going to be minus, but let's see, 10 could be 1 times 10 or 2 times 5. If we need 11, which set are we going to use? We're going to use the 1 and 10, and they have to both be minus. Minus 1x minus 10x. We'll bring down the other stuff. 5x squared plus 2, and we're ready to go. 5x squared minus 1x, they have an x in common. X times 5x is 5x squared, and x times negative 1 gives you negative x. Over here it starts with a negative, so we'll factor that out. 10x and 2 have a 2 in common. Negative 2 times 5x is negative 10x, and negative 2 times negative 1 is positive 2. So outside, x minus 2. That goes in one of the parentheses. They have the 5x minus 1 in common. Done. And then if you wanted to do it the other way, we'd have 5, we'd have the x minus 1, x minus 10, and we would try to divide those by a, which is 5. 1 over 5 you can't do, you can't simplify, so the 5 comes to the front. 5x minus 1. 10 divided by 5 is just 2. Go with the method that works for you. Hey, I hope you're doing well on this.